Hi, I'm Larry Leach, proud Executive Director of 12 Community Safety Initiative and host of the Meet Your Neighbors series. During the pandemic, we held a number of sessions over Zoom aimed at learning more about the diverse cultures and people in our communities. Our guest panelists were asked a series of 4 questions directed at identifying some of the challenges they face, what supports could help, and how those of us in our communities can welcome newcomers into our neighborhoods. Meet Your Neighbors series gives us a closer look at each of the sessions and the wonderful guest panelists that we had in our diversity series. We've also included some of our participants in the series with their insightful questions and comments. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoy Meet Your Vietnamese Neighbors. We want to hear the passion and we want to hear your story. So take it away, Anthony.
I am Vietnamese by birth, Canadian by citizenship, and Latino by choice. Because that's my style. I love Latino lifestyle, like very, happy, very positive. And that's my style presentation. It's my nickname and my email is Antonio. And I love that name very much. So I came here in the late 1980s, early 1990s as a teenager. And I went to Forest Lawn High School. And I came with very minimum amounts of English. I took the ESL courses there. And after that, I graduated on time. Then I went to University of Calgary. I took my first degree was what? Not math, not science, English literature. Yeah, so I got the BA in English in 3 years. And after that, I went to the education school and became the first Vietnamese-born English literature in Calgary at that time. Then after that, the series of the first just carried with me. The first department head, the first vice principal, the first Vietnamese-born principal up to this point in Canada. But before, way back, when I did my practicum as a future teacher, my advisor told me to change my career. She asked me that, you know what, I cope. I don't want to be shattered in the classroom. People would laugh at you because of your look, because of your accent, because of the way that this and that. Straight in her eyes, I told her, dreams do come true. And I did. So how did I become all of the challenges as a long-term Calgary resident? Number one, I had to overcome the cold weather. Oh my gosh, it was bloody cold when I first came to Canada, from plus 30 degrees Celsius down to minus 38. Can you believe that? Minus 38. Number two, I had to overcome the food. Oh gosh, I love Vietnamese food, but when I came here, the Vietnamese food was very limited at that time. We had only 2 Vietnamese restaurants back then. So I had to learn to eat pizza, McDonald's, and I got addicted to McDonald's eventually. McDonald's, KFC, and everything. And I had to overcome, of course, the language, the culture shock, and everything. But a few things I have learned from the past. Number one, when you sink, you reach for the lifeline. When I'm sinking, I always had a lifeline. My lifeline was my family, my teachers, my mentors, and so on. Number two, in all darkness, there is light. In all darkness, there is light. Doesn't matter how dark my situation was, the light just came to me through the support I received. And finally, I learned that when you have time to feel negative, you have time to do something positive. And I didn't drown myself in the ocean of negativity. I learned how to be strong. I learned how to be purposeful. I learned how to be a contributing citizen to our society up to this point. And that's why I'm here with all of you to share more my experiences. So thank you so much again, Larry, and the organization for inviting me.
Thank you. Jenny.
Yay!
Hi, my name is Jenny. So I'm came from Vietnam in December 1979. So probably for more than 40 years now. In Newfoundland, St. John. And after years, I moved to Calgary, live in Pembroke for 35 years now. I was Catholic Church sponsor me and two brothers, refugee in a refugee camp in Malaysia. At that time, just go school daytime and at night go to work as a janitor cleaning downtown summer building, and then later get married very early, 21 years old, get married, and after 4 years have kids. Have two kids, and then go to work for 26 years and get laid off and go back to Columbia College in 2011 until 2013. Yeah, and upgrade my English and learn, get my career as I got certificate for the childcare assistant. 2011 joined the Vietnamese Women Associations, and now I'm in the board chair.
Very good. Quinn.
Hi everyone, my name is Quinn, and I'm very happy to attend this conversation with you, and just share a little bit about myself. When I landed in Canada in 2018, my life in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I just moved to Calgary in the early of 2020. Currently, I live in northeast area of Calgary. It seems like my story is different from Jenny and Anthony, and it can be another perspective from new immigrants, newcomers. In my last jobs, I worked for a Canadian energy company in Vietnam office. And one of my tasks in my last job is organizing Stampede Day annually, but in Vietnam for staff. So one of my dreams is that I can attend a real Stampede. Maybe this summer I can experience the real Stampede Day as I dream about. Thank you for inviting me today.
I wanted to touch on something, the Stampede Breakfast piece, because 12 CSI along with International Avenue, we put on a yearly Stampede Breakfast called Best of the East. And we have a number of different cultural restaurants that are part of the International Avenue BRZ. And so we have Filipino food, Vietnamese food, I'm trying to think, German, all kinds of different cultures. So it's not your typical Stampede breakfast, but it's one you should definitely mark down when you get a chance to get out.
Thank you for your information.
Yeah, thank you for that. Lynn, take it away.
Hi, I'm Linh. I'm with Action Dignity, and I'm also a board member of the Calgary Vietnamese Women Association, and as a diversity committee member with top CSIs, I've been seeing that there's a lot of desire to learn about different cultures and how we can make our community more inclusive. And I'm so grateful that our panelists were able to join us today. Thank you.
Tremendous. Thanks, Lynn. The first question I'll start with, and we'll pick on Antonio first. What are some of the issues or concerns that you feel members of your community are facing?
I believe that the number one challenge is how to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic with poise and confidence and correct information. I have met a few people still live in fear, like extreme fear. I think they need to be informed with the correct information so that they don't live in this spectrum or that spectrum, but in the middle with all of us, and together we can overcome that challenge. The second challenge is most of them working in the nails industry and restaurant industry. And both industries have suffered from the lockdown. They're bouncing back very, very slowly up to this point. So I hope that, they will overcome that with more support.
issue is the language barriers, and for most of Vietnamese families came to Canada in Newfoundland St. John. That's a small province in the east.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that time, don't know English at all, and learn from beginning with the. I went to private school, and there's a class for special kids. I was sitting in a class with handicaps, two or three kids. I think it was grade 6, and I feel confused. I don't know what to say. Just sit there and listen. And the teacher just teach me English, just like kindergarten. And I learned from that on.
How old were you at that point?
13 years old. I only go inside the class with the ordinary student, grade 6, learn math and French. And then I start learn grade 7 and skip grade 8 and grade 9 on to grade 12, but I didn't pass my English grade 12. That's why I have problem with English until now. Yeah. Wow. And I still go school after marriage, still goes in the high school for 2 years. And with the husband's support.
As Jenny just mentioned, language barrier is one of the key things that we have to face for the first generation of Vietnamese immigrants. For the next generation, it may not be a big barriers, but for the first generation, for the newcomers like me, I don't totally understand how the community works in Canada. I don't know about the community association. I don't know that every neighborhood there is a community association that we can get to know the neighbor. In Canadian culture, we really values the networking. We get to know friends through the volunteer activities, through networking events, something like that. But in Vietnamese culture, mostly we will meet new friends through family gathering. Of friends, we sometimes gather in another friend, and we get to know a new others. So my point here is that if they cannot open their mind and understand more about the society in Canada works, they will miss the chance to involve in the community and connect with the society.
The next question, and I'll go back to Antonio. What kind of support would you want for your community members?
I would love to see more information being reached out to newcomers. We do have the Vietnamese Association here. It is a very active one, but somehow the newcomers come and they couldn't find it on the internet. I didn't know why, but I would love to be more accessible. So I would love to see more workshop or more forums like that for the newcomers to present to them, okay, this is the lifestyle in Canada when you go to a family or whatever gathering, for example, after COVID, it's okay to hug. It's okay for male, female to interact. It's okay for married people to hug each other, for example. Something like that. A certain thing is not about right or wrong, it is different. And accepting differences is sometimes need time and information for the newcomers.
Well, let me ask you this, to lead in, you talked about, hugging and that sort of personal space that might be a difference in the cultures. Are there any other simple things like that we would take for granted that your culture would look at in a different way?
Oh, the eye contact, for example. Because now, Larry, if you talk to my mom, for example, and you look straight in her eyes, she would feel offended. It's like, oh my gosh, how dare you to do that? That would be signs of offending, right? Mm-hmm. But my mom needs to learn. That's what I taught my mom to. Like, Mom, it's okay. It's okay for people to look at your eyes. They respect you. That's why they give you that eye contact. Okay. So if you talk to white Caucasian people, then it's okay. For us, we will keep our Vietnamese culture. When talking to you, you will lower eye contact like that. But when you talk to the white Caucasian or whatever, you Latino people, they give you eye contact. Appreciate that.
I have been to our community for nearly 1 year, but I didn't know that we have a community association. Some activity in our community, that in the neighborhood that I live. But when I start research, I know that there is association here, and they have so many activity, but I didn't know. So it means that there is a gap in communication. They don't approach all the community living in the neighborhoods. So we don't know about that. And to solve the language barrier, we may add more first language, so they can approach more people who having language barrier. Simple word will be better, because most of people were under the basic wording, or like maybe pictures and drawing.
When I first came to Canada, we rented a house just across the street from Arnold's elementary school, because I had 2 young children, right? So I sent my kids to the school, and just next to the school is the community association. So I think it was maybe July 1st event. So the community association had a nice, community event there, maybe celebrating Canada Day, where they had bouncy house, and all the things that really drew the kids' attention, and they really wanted to go there. But when I came to inquire about the event, they said, "Oh, this is for community association members. If you're a family, you pay $25. If you are not community members, then you have to pay admission." As a newcomer, all we wanted to do is to keep our savings, and try to find a job. And at that time, we're not even working, or worked very part-time. So it's something that is a little bit fancy, kind of, and we don't even know what the benefits of being a member of community association. And so that was one thing that I remembered until this day. So maybe for the first year, if you are new to the community, let's give you free membership. So you can join community events.
Get involved, the family. Will be a workshop for them, so they know all the information from a flyer letter from the communities. Yes.
Okay, so that's a way to get the information to them, hey?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go on to our third question. How do you think community associations can reach members of your community in order to get more involved and participate?
It's very helpful when we have at least 1 or 2 first language in the community of each community association. We have all different ethnicity. It will be more helpful to approach to all of people, rather than just like only Caucasian, only Vietnamese or something like that. We should have a diversity committee of community association. It will be better and easier to approach people with different backgrounds.
Community associations should connect with immigrant serving agencies. So once they know, like the immigrant serving agencies knows that Queen will go to Harvest Hill, for example, or Jenny will go to Pembroke, they could kind of refer them to the different community association. Because if they live in the neighborhood, then it'll be easier for them to just go to the community association or to the community hall, if they have been referred by the Center for Newcomers, for example. And then once newcomers are referred to community associations, then the community association can invite them for those kind of workshops where they can share more information about the functions of the community association, what are the benefits of being a member, and it will help them settle easier, because they will send their children to the neighborhood schools, and they will start getting more involved.
They can use the social media. We have so many websites, so many Vietnamese groups in Calgary already. So I think we should invite them to join. But I think the bottom line is we should make sure that the newcomers feel welcome, right? Because when I first come to Canada, just like Quinn or just like other people, I didn't feel welcome at all 30 years ago. Even though in this era, there are less incidents of inappropriate actions like that, but they're still there. I would love to see more support in the school with the higher population of ESL students, or in all languages, not only Vietnamese, but in all languages, to make sure that they feel welcome, they feel informed, they feel supported.
In Pembroke, we have the community hall and on support the communities. Kawa, the Vietnamese Association, didn't have the office yet, so we need the hall for us to get together. Last few years ago, CIC, Vietnamese Senior Golden Club, they meet together in Pembroke Community Hall.
That would make you feel more like joining the association at some point because you're comfortable there, right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Do want to touch on the last question. And since Quinn said she only learned about community associations recently, I won't bug her. And we know that Jenny is very much involved in her community. So we won't bug her about this, but I'll ask Anthony this one last question.
Okay.
So Antonio, how are you or your community members involved in community associations?
I have so many. I've been here for such a long time, and I've been involved in many associations that I know each association attracts volunteers. Nevertheless, this is my concern. Except the Lunar New Year Festival, which attracted a lot of members to come, like I'm talking about members as large to come to the event. All the events are not that well attended. The Vietnamese Association has hosted so many forums, so many gatherings and so on, but attendance was very mediocre. They talk about some special topics for the newcomers, like taxation, like traffic, like healthcare, and so on, so on, so on. And yet the attendance was very dismal, and mostly the STP, the same 10 people. The STP, the same 10 people showed up, right? Of course, we appreciate those 10 people show up, but most of them have lived here a long time. Those topics are more for the newcomers, and the golden age that Miss Jenny belongs to still have like under 100 people. They should have like hundreds. So I think that we should somehow make the attendees feel more, or potential attendees feel more comfortable. They would feel that, okay, those sessions would be helpful and useful and relevant to them. And then we can reach out with more sympathy, empathy, and with more humanity.
Tremendous. Thank you. If anybody has a question that you'd like to ask to the panelists, you can either put it into the chat or put your little yellow hand up, and we'll certainly ask it. I see Maylee's put something in here. She's interested in learning more about the journey to Freedom Park on International Avenue and what it will mean to the Vietnamese community once it's completed. So I'll just leave that out there for any of you to jump in and answer.
As you know, on November 30th, 1975, the communists of Vietnam ended the war by taking over the South Vietnam, and many South Vietnamese people fled the country by boat, and they became boat people, and they got here. Most of us got here safely, but many have died because of fleeing the country. The city of Calgary is graciously lent us the land facing downtown Calgary. Looks just beautiful. So they will have the journey to Freedom Park, and then they will have the boat people monument as well. The monument is a memorial, just very similar to any other war memorial monument. So the significance, it just reminds people it doesn't matter which political party or ideology you belong to, freedom is not for free.
Anyone else want to chime in? Quinn, Lynn?
part will be meaningful for a part of important part of our Vietnamese history. And, it was about spirit for many Vietnamese community members.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Oh, there's one from Pat.
From those of you who've been parents here and raising children, how you have found some of the cultural things that you bumped up against with Canadian culture at school or with families, and what might be some things that community associations could do, for instance, that would help that kind of building the rapport. For instance, I'm expecting there were some of the value differences and also cultural differences with that.
Yes, and I found that it's totally different. Back home, when your parents, sometimes I really upset, but the rule over here is not allowed to hit the kids, and yeah, that's a different culture. Yeah, you have to talk to nicely, and I've been learning child care assistant too, so I really need to calm down, more patient to the kids, and totally different from back home when I was little.
I had two children when I came to Canada, and my daughter was 7 and my son was less than 2 years old. So we sent one of them to school and the other one to the daycare. When my son, who is the younger one, went to the daycare, he did not speak much, and I tried to speak with him in Vietnamese for about 6 months. He didn't really say anything, and I started being worried that he might have some like developmental delay in his speech. So one night when we were just lying in bed together, and I asked him in English, and he started talking. So it was just like it dawned on me that he actually understands, and he started picking up the English language rather than Vietnamese, and he's been like using English since then, and not too much Vietnamese. So he could understand a little bit Vietnamese, but he wouldn't be able to respond in a full Vietnamese sentence. With our daughter who came from Vietnam, she had a little bit of the Vietnamese culture in her, and of course I've seen a lot of like issues, especially when she was in middle school and also to high school, and even until now she's already graduating from university. With my husband being like he's in his late 50s now, still having the Vietnamese culture where like if you're my children, you have to listen to me. There's no way that you can talk back. And then like we tried to teach them the right thing, but also like from our Vietnamese perspective, and it becomes very difficult. She said, oh, you told me to be independent, you told me to try to stand up for your rights, and now at home you don't allow me to talk back to you. You don't want me to say my piece. So it's really a struggle, and we took some cultural parenting workshop and training when I was with my youngest child who was born here, and that really helps to know like our rights and also what is not the right thing to do in Canada. And I only learned about that like 4 years ago, and I came here like for 15 years. So I think if community association can also like help promote that kind of workshop as part of their service to the community, especially for newcomers when they first came to Canada, that will help parents understand a lot of the things that they should not like impose on the children based on their own values from their own culture. I hope it answers your question, Pat.
How we typically wrap up is I ask the attendees, so not the panelists, you're off the hook, Jenny, one takeaway or something that they've learned from today to share with you guys. So I'll start with Pat.
Well, thank you very much. I found it really helpful and interesting to hear your stories, and also to get an insight into what the culture is like. And it makes me wonder how we would also describe Canadian culture, trying to summarize what are the good things and the bad things about us too. that you could probably help us fill some of that in also from your experiences. Thank you.
Giselle.
One of the things I found particularly valuable was the differences in the culture, things like eye contact, which you may not necessarily, or I wouldn't necessarily think of as being really different in cultures. Knowing that, it'll be much easier to talk to and approach people from other cultures and be aware that, you know, those kind of things could be seen very differently. So I appreciated that.
Samantha.
I think my takeaway from today, because it was also mentioned last week as well, what more has to start at the immigration process for the newcomers and getting them set up and knowing where to go and what to do, because that's kind of where it's lost and there's the disconnect in communication. So yeah, I think more needs to be done there. So thank you again, and it was another great session.
Marion.
I like Lynn's idea about the free membership for new residents. What a nice way to welcome people into the community and engage them. And I just wanted to say, Anthony, I think you're a guru, if that's a word I can use, because I just want to reiterate what you said. When you sink, you reach for your lifeline. Where there is darkness, there is light. And when you have time to be negative, you have time to do something positive. Really resonating with me. I appreciate your thoughts in that or sharing those wonderful tips for life. Thank you.
Maylee, well, maybe try your microphone, and if we can't hear you, maybe you can put it in the chat.
Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I really appreciated this session. My family came to Canada over 40 years ago from Vietnam, and so I think their challenges are a little different, and it's helpful to know what's still happening. I think a lot has been done, but there's still more we can improve on. And Lynn, your story about the community association really touched me, because sometimes I think, well, the community association is there as a space, but it still takes a while before people feel that it's their space. And so I'm looking forward to what can change that. And I just wanted to thank the panelists for their time and for sharing their stories. And it's inspiring to hear how you've been able to give back to the community. So thank you.
Sabita.
There is a gap and need of building relationship among our cultural community groups and our community associations. So I think we need to work both sides. It's not only from one side. If we want to build our relationship or a better neighborhood, then community association and should reach out ethnic cultural groups, so we can work together, and our cultural community associations should work within their own community to our newcomers, so we can help them to understand and the benefit of being involvement or participating in the community associations. So I think it's like it validates that there is a gap, and we need to work on that.
I think Lynn wanted to say something.
Thank you so much, Anthony and Jenny and Queen, for joining me today and for joining us for this final session of getting to know our neighbors. I felt inspired and excited that there are a lot of opportunities for community associations. You know, like to be able to reach out and learn from, you know, like the different people in the community. And I also feel that there are a lot of things that we as you know, part of 12CSI can also do to support community association, as well as newcomers or, you know, like residents to be more actively involved in our community.
Thank you, Lynn. You were the straw that stirs the drink. You made this happen. You invited the presenters, and thank you very much. This has been terrific. And again, thank you, panelists. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, committee members, and thank you everyone for attending.